Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Kate and I are very excited today to be joined by one of our coaches, Stuart. So we're going to chat about his background, about what brought him into copywriting, and then quite frankly, we've been doing a lot of chatting before we even started recording. So we're going to go back and revisit some of those topics because they were really good. And we probably should have been recording them at that moment. But anyway, hello, Kate, and hello, Stuart.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. We're so excited to have you here. So Stuart, you and I have, well, first of all, we just chatted in general. And then we recently hopped on an Instagram Live and talked a little bit about your background. But I'm going to make you do it again. For those of people who haven't
elevator
caught
pitch down.
Yes, it's the same background. Nothing's changed. I'll refer you to the previous recording, Nikki. Thank you. Next question.
Yeah. So what was your work situation before copywriting? What brought you into copywriting? All of that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I've been a committed employee for I've been in my current job for 16, coming on to 17 years in a couple of months' time. It's, I never had any plans to strike out on my own and start my own business. I was, happy with the 9 to 5 and more 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. on occasion, but, doing the work, putting in the hours. But something happened. I don't know if you heard about it in America, but there was a bit of a worldwide pandemic cropped up, which...
Tell me more.
Yeah. So my job is in the airline industry. So as you can imagine, we were pretty impacted by that. Bookings dried up. So the sort of work that I do is more sort of, it's in the background, it's more strategic, looking at service strategies and how do we deliver great service to customers. And all of a sudden, the need for that sort of work happening wasn't really there. So in the UK, we have a government-backed scheme, furlough scheme, where companies can essentially lay you off but keep you contracted, and you can get support through the government for your salary. So effectively, I was sat at home for 3 months for the first period, and it was, in the midst of a pandemic, what do? You look around for things to do to keep yourself occupied. And I kept seeing these adverts crop up on Facebook for something called a filthy rich writer. Dismiss, scroll past you as you do, but I kept seeing them, and I was like, interesting. What's this about? And I have never thought of myself as a skilled writer. It was never, if in an interview someone asked what are your top skills, I went, I'd be great at communicating, I'd be great at all of these things, but writing would never be there because I've never identified that as a skill. I just was able to put my words into an email and send it. And I watched the training video. I started to hear a bit more, and I got interested that, am I different that I can do that without too much of a challenge? And it seems yes. So watched the training video, and I thought, no, I'm not going to jump in. I'm going to take some time, think about it, because it wasn't an insignificant amount of money for the training, but it was, looking back, amazing value for money. But at the same time, in the midst of a pandemic, when you're not quite sure what's going to happen in the future, I was being cautious with what I was doing. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, seriously, what is the worst that could happen? I could learn a new skill, or I could find out it wasn't what I didn't, not as easy as I thought, and it's not the end of the world. So I jumped in and went through the training course and really enjoyed it. And I think, looking back, even at that moment, going through the training, it was never a year ahead. I would think I'd be working by myself as a freelancer. It was always still I'll take a look at, I'll give it a go. But I was still, employed. I was still doing that job. And then I went back to work, and I was still watching the videos in afternoons and evenings when I had free time, still, putting in the work at weekends. And then I was furloughed again when our second wave hit the UK. So what was then meant to be a month off work I went back at the beginning of March, and that started in November. So it's been a much longer period where I've been able to really devote my time to putting in the hours and essentially working full time on my freelancing business, which has been such a great opportunity. And it's opened my eyes to, there's a real mindset shift. Yep. Difficult words to say, where previously I was, you have one job, you go to work and you get paid for it. But now I'm in a position when I'm slowly building up my time back in employment, but at the same time working on my own business. So I'm not going to be in a position where I'm beholden to one company and one decision in one situation, which, as 2020 has shown, can flip straight away, and all of a sudden you could potentially be out of work. So having this as a skill I can fall back on, I can make money doing it, which was an absolute revelation to me. You always think a full-time job is your security. That's what pays the bills. But somehow this crazy time we're living in, being a risky old freelancer is now my security for a life that I'm building. It's a bizarre situation to be in.
Yeah, I agree. It's really kind of the exact opposite of anything any of us are taught, unless you had a parent that was a freelancer or, knew someone who was a freelancer. We're all taught, go to school, get a job, and work hard, and you'll be fine. And yeah, I think that one of the things, I think it was kind of coming, but I think that one of the things the pandemic really sped up was that idea of a full-time job is not nearly as safe as we think it is. That when we give up that control of our income, and it can be great, don't get me wrong, I have worked full-time as a copywriter and really enjoyed it. On staff, I mean, as a copywriter, always full-time as a copywriter. But when we give up that control of our income and our opportunities, we do sacrifice something for that feeling of security, for that regular paycheck coming from somebody else. Yeah.
Well, I think I like what you said about it being a mindset shift, because I think so many people, until you experience and try freelancing and understand really that you do have a lot more control over your career than necessarily at a full-time job, it's hard to even think that there would be safety in freelance. I think, I've had a lot of friends tell me, oh, I could never do that because of the safety issue. And I'm curious if now that you've seen both sides of it, do you feel like always the grass is always greener? I feel like there's always pros and cons, in either one, but how are you balancing, I guess, those two very different ideas of like full-time job being safe, but maybe freelance actually has safety in it? Like, how are you reconciling those worlds?
It's a great question, and it's something I'm still reconciling. I'm not going to lie, because so I started back in my full-time job at the beginning of March, but it's more of a staggered reintroduction back into that job. So I'm currently working 1 day a week at that, but potentially that's going to increase in line as we get closer to lockdown lifting and life going slowly back to normal. So I think this is the best of both worlds at present, because I'm able to I've still got that security of knowing I have a full-time job that I'm still employed to be doing, but at the same time, I can start to balance it. And I think my main challenge going forward this year is working out how to balance that effectively. And, it's the whole multitasking thing. You might end up being terrible at two things at once, or, it's about not sacrificing one over the other. And in terms of security, I kind of said internally, I wouldn't make any huge lifestyle changes until I've tried this for at least a year, because, although I do love what I'm doing and I love writing and working with clients and finding out amazing new businesses and, learning all of this, I've always been one of these people who just, I spend most of my days on Wikipedia looking things up. I've always been like that. So working with this variety of clients is really exciting for me, and I'm finding out a load of things about bizarre new industries. But at the same time, is my love for copywriting based in that, or is it in the writing side of it? And I'm pretty sure it's both, because I'm enjoying both parts of it, but it's still relatively early days. And in terms of throwing in the career and going full-time freelance, I'm not sure I'm quite brave enough at this stage.
Sure, yeah.
But if I can, the ideal world for me is to balance the two roles successfully, and that would be, you know, the best of both worlds. So the rest of 2021 will be ramping up employment again and maintaining freelancing at the same time, and making a success of doing a sort of side gig as well. So that would be the perfect solution for me. And if I then find I prefer copywriting over my full-time job, and I'm getting that regular source of income enough that I can have that security when the mortgage still needs paid, and I haven't had a reply in a couple of days, or, you know, is this going to be okay? But once I've given it a good crack at getting that consistency going, then I'll sort of revisit my options and take it from there. And I'll be reaching out to the pair of you for advice, I'm sure, if that situation does crop up.
Yeah, we're here for you. Well, and I think it's important for people to hear, though, that when you start copywriting, it doesn't mean that you have to be like, I'm all in. This is all I'm going to do. I have to quit my full-time job, or I have to, you know, that kind of thing. That you can balance it out with the job that you already have. If you enjoy that job,
you like your job, which so why, you might as well you like both things.
Absolute zero intention of looking into a new career, but the situation was forced upon me, and I didn't want to come out of what essentially most of a year by not having done anything with it. I wanted to, you know, do something productive with my time, and this has been ideal. But what I've been, in my reintroduction back into my work, I've been looking at all of these skills that I've now gained, worked on and improved upon. I've now looking at different roles within my organization, but okay, that was previously a job I would never have considered. That might be interesting. And I've always had a bit of a dream of working in the sort of the into our press office side of the business, and it's starting to look like that could be a potential development opportunity for me this year, next year, where previously I wouldn't have thought I had the skills. I don't have, you know, media training. I don't have, you know, newsroom experience, but I can write a pretty good press release now. So I've now got much more experience at those sort of soft skills, which I can bring to my career. So it literally has, you know, there is no downside to that risky gamble I took back in late summer 2020, signing up to this Facebook weird course that I'd seen.
Well, I love what you said. I think you had said this probably in a previous conversation when we were chatting about having a transferable skill. So I'd love to hear you chat more about that, because I think, you know, there are a lot of people that maybe love their job, but outside of it, they think, what else can I do besides this job? Yeah.
And, you know, although I have worked for the same employer for a considerable, you know, coming up to 17 years, I've never done the same role for that period of time. I've done quite a number of different positions within the company. I've moved from, you know, I started in a call center on the phone speaking to customers. I then worked up through the organization. I'm now a head office role, looking at more of a strategic position. How can we improve the way we do what we do? And when I've been looking back at your career and your CV, and you think, oh, I worked in this role, I worked in that role, but actually thinking about it, a lot of what I was doing in my current job is persuading people to either invest in a new opportunity, or pitching to people within my industry that we really should be doing this, because it's the benefits to the customer are huge, they're massive. We really need to put our limited budget towards this new opportunity. And when I've been going through the course, I'm like, oh, yeah, benefit to consumer, call to action, you know, empathizing with the customer in their part of the journey and putting yourself in their shoes. And okay, if I was a customer, how would I like this to happen? So it's being able to go, oh, maybe I have got experience which I hadn't really noticed before. I can draw on that, I can pull that into, and I know when in the course Nikki and Kate, you both encouraged writing a USP, and that is the real secret that each one of us have, that no one's done what I've ever done. They've done similar things, but they've not had the career or the life that I've led. But I can draw upon that life experience, that previous roles that I've done to bring my own turn of phrase or my own approach to a problem. And it's one of the things I've loved about this work is that problem solving nature, where I need to get this customer from this position to this position. How can I get them from A to B in the most creative way I can think of, and my own approach that no one else would write like I do. But those transferable skills are it's what it's all about, because I've recruited people before, I've interviewed people before, and if you've got someone who ticks all those boxes because they've done that job, great. But if you've got someone who brings in something similar but different, and a different twist and a different approach to the way they would approach a problem, then often they can be the best candidates for it, because they bring that external influence and that different approach. So yeah.
I love that.
Did that answer your question, or did I just talk for 10 minutes?
No, fantastic.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that you've been pitching and you've been working with clients and you've been writing and getting paid to be a writer, what has been your experience? Have there been anything that has been surprising for you, or anything that you found harder than you expected, or even easier than you expected? How's it been for you?
It's all been a bit of a surprise, really. And I think I remember my first 2 clients actually came from friends of mine. So I had this big reluctance of doing the big reveal, and ta-da, this is my new career now. It's like huge. Oof, that feeling was, so I'd set up my Facebook page and I'd commented in a group saying, oh, I'm a copywriter, I can help you with that. And so one thing I didn't realize is, if you comment in a public Facebook group, your friends see that. So it was actually my mother commented and went, what's this? I was like, so I guess my family now know. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. So that was made easier. But I think I even remember you commented on a post I put in the group, Nikki. I'd said, I can't believe people pay me to do this. It's you want to give me money just to write something? I mean, that's crazy. But now I wouldn't say it comes naturally or easy, because it doesn't. You spend time, you think, how can I phrase this? How can I put it, that's really persuasive and engaging. But it's not, I'm not a mechanic fixing a car. I'm not, it's just me sat with my laptop in the front room, typing away and earning money from doing it. And it's been eye-opening. It really has. And I think one of the biggest measures of success for me is, so when we've been on furlough from our job, obviously we take a bit of a cut in our wage, and it was sort of late summer and it was coming up to Christmas. I'm thinking, oh God, it's going to be a tight Christmas this year, because I'm losing a bit of money. How am I going to afford it? But I was actually able to buy everyone's Christmas presents with the money I made from copywriting. So I was like, hey, Nikki saved Christmas.
I love that. Save Christmas. You save Christmas.
I call her Fezziwig. I want to put that in the public domain now. And I feel like that's the perfect. You've read Christmas Carol? No?
Only the Muppets one. I don't think they had that character in the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Fozziwig.
Yeah. Fozziwig.
Fozziwig, which I always delight in when I rewatch the Muppet Christmas Carol. Yes.
You need to, Charles Dickens, get on your Christmas Carol. Come on, Stuart.
I have read some Dickens. I really have. I'm not a Philistine, but Christmas Carol was never one of the ones that I read.
Super short. It's a classic. But Fezziwig is just the boss that, throws the big party and everyone loves him as a boss. And he, for Christmas, and Scrooge is like, yay, Christmas party, back when before he was Scrooge.
Who's Tiny Tim in this?
We need to think about that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's Scrooge, I think, was the better question.
Wasn't going to go there.
Okay. Yeah, right. Well, it depends on what day you catch me.
She's both Fezziwig and Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you though, because I think the aspect of telling family and friends is it's a big deal, obviously, you know, especially I think in your case where, and there are a lot of folks who aren't quite sure if this is going to be a full career change or if it's just something they're doing as a side gig, or it's something they want to dip their toes in. They don't want to reveal to the world, this is my new career. And then, you know, that fear of like, okay, what if I don't make it? What if, you know, people are going to a year later be like, oh, what happened to your copywriting career? So I'm curious what advice you have for folks who, you know, maybe want to tell their network just because it's such a great opportunity to get work, but also have that hesitancy of maybe they also don't want their colleagues to know if they're still at their job. How did you navigate that?
I think it's a great question because it was very front of mind when I was going through this. So I think that the first thing that I did was I cleared it with my boss because, you know,
yeah,
I didn't want to be, you know, found out for, you know, especially with still being employed. I didn't, you know, I thought I'm not going to commit time and money and resources at doing this if, you know, work find out and they're going to say, nah, you can't actually do that. You need to stop. So that was my first. Once I had that, okay, then I thought, oh, great. In terms of family and friends, you know, I say it with love, but get over it, because if they're that good a friend, they'll be absolutely behind you 110%. And I think that fear, I don't think I know, that fear is your own projection of, you know, oh, it's imposter syndrome. It really is. You know, can I really put that on, would I put that on my passport, occupation, writer? Oh, I don't know. It's just some course I took, you know, and it really is. You need to think people will support you and people will admire you, that you are being proactive, that you're taking the risk and you're doing something, not so much to better yourself, but you're taking an opportunity and you're putting yourself out there and you're saying, you know, this is who I am and this is a skill that I have. But, you know, I embrace it because, as I said, my first two clients came from people I know. In fact, fourth client was a family member for a new business she was setting up. Word of mouth is a very strong recommendation. And, you know, if you're competing against other people for the same job, when you've got a referral from a family friend or someone you've met, then it's so much stronger. So, you know, people will back you and embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
That, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's good advice.
We were talking a little bit before we hopped on the call because we were talking about this month's coaching call, and we were talking about pitch and sending pitches and following up. And one of the ways that we kind of started the discussion was that you had sent some pitches and you're regularly sending pitches, which is fantastic, and regularly landing clients. But it had been a couple of days or a little while since you had heard back. And one of the things that I was saying that I think a lot of, because honestly, it's the same way with selling courses too. You would think that if you're pitching consistently, that you're going to get consistent responses. You know, if you're sending 10, 15 pitches a week, you get, you know, a pitch a day, I mean, a response a day or something like that. And, you know, it's the same thing with frankly, it's probably the same thing with selling anything. You know, you have a consistent ad spend, but there's some days when you sell a lot and some days when only a few come through. And that had kind of led us into the topic of follow-ups and the importance of follow-ups. What has your experience been? It's kind of a roundabout way to get to that. I just recap our entire conversation.
Yeah.
But what has your experience been with following up on your pitches?
I think the fear of following up on pitches is probably linked to that fear of putting yourself out there and saying I'm a copywriter, because it's very much, you don't want to, yeah, for me it's a bit, oh, I'm bothering people, I'm you know, I'm poking, hello, work with me, but it's not that. And bizarrely, most of my clients who I've gone on to work with and you know do work for have come from people I've followed up on, because, you know, I think there was one person who replied straight away, so, oh my God, yes, I need this. But most of them have been the result of going back and adding more value and say, have you thought about this? And I really think you should try this. And one of the clients I was speaking to a couple of weeks ago actually said, I only replied to you because you followed up, because you were persistent. And I was like, you know, I actually respect that you did that. So I got in touch. And it was on one of my riskier pictures. Not, it sounds terrible, but I put a bit more humor into it than I normally would, because I thought, it's the third, it was like the third email I'd sent, the second follow-up, and I thought, I'm unlikely to hear back from this guy. I'll put more personality in. And he replied, I love the fact that you showed you weren't a robot and you were persistent, and I'd love to chat. And I was like, wow, that worked. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that on every pitch, and I would probably pick your audience, but you know, being willing to, not vulnerable, it sounds a bit extreme, but being open to being a human, and you're not some faceless email person who's just bothering you to get money. You know, you're a person, and you are getting in touch with an opportunity that you feel would help that business, and people are much more likely to come back to you for that. And you know, we were talking about before we hit recording again, in my role, in my employment, I would often have in emails flagged to come back on, and I must come back to that. I must come back. You know, I'm not in the headspace to even think about that today. That's next week's job. And then next week come by, and another issue would crop up that I had to deal with, and things would drop down into the depths of the inbox and never to be seen again. So if you're not following up and pinging up at the top of someone's inbox, oh, thank you, I knew I had to do something today. Yeah. That's my first task today, is to come back to that person. Obviously, you don't go crazy with it. Don't send 5 emails a day, because that's just annoying and no one likes that. But it's within reason. Reach out, show you're human, and just be, again, not forceful. It's just be respectful, but don't give up at the first hurdle. Keep going, because people appreciate you making the effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even from the client side, there's so much in your inbox, and I'll flag stuff and I'll mean to come back to it, but there's just so much going on that it keeps going, like you were saying, keeps going to the bottom of my inbox. I was sharing that we are working with a designer to have some things redesigned, and I hired this woman. Like, I want this work done. I hired her, and I see an email come in and I go, oh, I have to respond to her. I have to respond to her. I have to respond to her. And invariably it keeps getting further and further down my list. And she's very good. So she'll pop up and say, hey, just wanted to no pressure, but I just want to check in and make sure you saw this. And I value that, because then I have that moment to go, yes, let me just do this now. Let me respond to this now. But I think for freelancers, there's that element of first, I don't want to be annoying. Which there are ways to write it that you can be annoying. Absolutely. And if you send, to your point, Stuart, if you send 6 follow-up emails, 6, 7, 8 follow-up emails, then quite frankly, it's pretty annoying. At that point, you might just want to take a hint. But then there's that element of of fear that they're not getting back in touch with you because of something you've done, that there's something wrong with your pitch email. And you can't, first of all, you can't assume, because again, people's inboxes are busy, but to make an action that someone is not taking about you is I want to say foolish, but I want a gentler word.
Selfish. It's very ego-centric, and I don't say that as like, you've got a big ego, but it's why would you face internally when it's an external?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not about you. You don't know.
Yeah,
you don't know.
That's
and
nothing
definitely,
to do
with... yeah.
And I think one thing which made it resonate with me is a couple of clients I've worked with have said, "Oh, it's unbelievable. I was literally about to look at my About Me page, and you've emailed me and said, why don't you do that?" But you've got to remember, if you're, the way you teach pitching for work, Nikki, is if you're going out proactively to companies and say, I think this would help you, sometimes the timing isn't right for them. And sometimes it's, we know it's a problem. However, there are bigger fish to fry. You don't know what's going on in that company. And I know there's been especially with 2020 being, the car crash it's been, there's a lot of people reluctant to go out and look for work and pitch freelance businesses. But a company I approached had just got funding from a crowdsource campaign that they were running to reinvest in their business. And I didn't know that, but I found out about it after on the discovery call, and thought, brilliant. I wasn't actually going to approach that customer because I thought, well, they're never going to want to pay me to do work. They're bound to be struggling at times like this. You don't know what's going on in a company, and if you don't hear back from somebody, it's not because you're not a good copywriter or you didn't write that pitch perfectly. It could just be they're not in the market for it, or it's the wrong time, or you're at the bottom of a to-do list and 3-4 weeks could go by and an email comes out of the blue. You've got, oh, they've come back to me. And you never know what's going on in that company's business. So it's all about stopping yourself from reading into things when there's nothing there to be read into.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, I must admit.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't certainly anyone listening, don't get us wrong.
Yeah. It's a very human thing,
Yeah.
but I feel like we have to stop and think like more data driven and say, do I actually have any data to back up these thoughts in my brain? Do I have any facts? And no, you've got zero.
Yeah.
I say this, but every pitch I send, I'm like, I'm going to hear back from this one. That was a really good pitch. That I would reply to that email. Crickets. It's really good.
It's so true, but I think it's the more we can detach ourselves from all of our, you send it and forget it is what I say, until you have to follow up, of course, and then you follow up. But otherwise, you're not dwelling on. I'm curious if you use this, because I know there are a few students in the course that do, can see clients that have opened and they've opened it 5 times and then, oh, they've opened it again. And I'm like, spend your time. Like there's not a lot of data in that, I think one person mentioned they use it to strategically follow up, but I was thinking like the people that didn't open your email, they might need the follow-up more and you have no way of knowing that these are more likely just because they opened your first, you have no way of knowing that.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with that because I use a CRM system. It's free of charge. It keeps me organized. I'm not paying for anything, no. But I can log all my clients in there. It reminds me when to follow up with them. And if you send emails through the system, it pings to say they've opened the email. So that's interesting. But there's this one customer client who's probably got my email in their inbox, and every time they arrow down through that inbox, I get a pinged alert that it's being read. I'm like, would you stop? Because I sent it 3 months ago and I'm still getting them, and there's no way to turn that off. Or just delete the email, please. Delete the email.
Which maybe they're saving it though. Clearly, I mean,
or that, but you start
you'll hear from them
second guessing every single ping on your in your phone that goes off. You're like, is today going to be the day? No, it's not. But when it has worked for me, is a client where I'd sent an initial pitch, I then followed up, and in the follow-up I'd included a link to my my calendar. So if you want to chat, book some time in. I was trying to see, would that work with people? Would they appreciate the convenience of just one-click book? And I noticed I was umming and ahhing about going back for the third follow-up. I thought, this guy obviously isn't interested. I'm just bothering him. And then I happened to look, and it showed that he clicked on the calendar link. I was like, what's this now? So I thought, okay, maybe I will just send that follow-up. And within 10 minutes, he'd replied and said, yeah, I'm interested. And he was the one who said, I appreciate that you were persistent. So that is where that has helped me, where it gave me that insight with, okay, you must be somewhat interested to have clicked to look at my schedule to see what availability I have. And that prompted me to follow up with them. And had I not, then I wouldn't have heard back. And so it serves a purpose, but if I obsessed as much as I want to obsess over these notifications, I'd get no work done because they're constant. And so sometimes do I do it, but it's a good sense check to show that you've got the email address right. And that's the only real use I have for it now. If I don't get an alert, I'm either got their email address wrong or I'm in the junk folder. And actually, that's just reminded me of something which happened today, which I thought was quite interesting. So I knew I had the right email address because it was on their LinkedIn profile. So I pitched to someone, and then a week has gone by and they hadn't opened it. I thought, why aren't they opening my email? I know it's right. So I thought, nothing to lose. So I resent the email, but I changed the subject line. And 10 minutes later, the email was opened. I thought, ooh, an A/B test on my very own work. So yeah, it has uses, but I wouldn't get drawn into that too much, because you can really second guess, and it really plays on the whole trying to second guess what a company is doing. So yeah, use with caution.
Yeah. I like that advice.
Yeah, it is. It's so tempting to go to read into what's happening or what's not happening, and
just send the follow-up.
Just send the follow-up. Well, and Kate, you were saying, I think right before we started recording, that someone in the group recently sent a pitch.
Yeah. So there were a couple. I think there was one at the end of 2020 where a woman said they got back to her after a year, which is, very long time, but I love that. And then, just 2 days ago, maybe, they had sent one out as part of Pitchapalooza, which, is our annual event in January for students. And so it's now probably 2 months later, at least, and they got back to her. So I think time is different as a freelancer. I don't know if you feel that way when you're go, you're delivering, you're executing on projects, and it's a lot faster pace. Your pitch, follow up, this, and there's always things going on to do versus, as I'm reminded now, you go back into an organization. And I think there's a little bit of the timeline is just slower as you work on bigger things that take more people, more resources, more time. And so people are on a different schedule than you. And I think it's easy to forget that, you're answering your email every day because that's kind of your job as a freelancer, to keep up with that, make sure you answer clients, versus in an organization. Yes, maybe I need to get this project done, but I have these other projects, and then I'll get to this email because there's just other things going on, if that makes sense.
It's a great point, because I think what I need to keep reminding myself is, okay, when I'm in copywriting mode, it's all I do. Right. It's all I think about. Yeah. And if someone in a business is only ever thinking about copywriting, I think, well, okay, you're clearly in the wrong job. You should be a copywriter. I can recommend a great course for you, but it's not the highest priority. And we just have to keep remembering that other things happen and other businesses go on. And that, I think, even at my worst, I've never waited a year to reply to an email. But that's a bit extreme. But I think it's also good to remember that if you're a brand new freelancer, you are having to do a lot of reaching out to people before these things start to come back. I know I've got like half a dozen or so companies who have pitched and they said, "Oh, not now, but soon." And those are all, when that comes back, I'm going to go with a positive. When they come back to me, that's work I don't have to worry about pitching for. That just comes to me. But at the minute, you've got to put out all of these routes and feelers out there, and then once you've got that sort of critical mass of prospects and new clients coming, they'll start coming back, and then you wonder, this is amazing, I'm getting all this work in without having to pitch anyone. But keep pitching, because I fell into, I know it's like, you keep telling us don't do this, but I did it. And in January I had a big project I was working on, and it was intense, and there was a lot of work to get done, and I was like, yay, this is great, and I'll pitch at the weekend. And the weekend came and I needed a break. It was the weekend. I'd done a full week's work, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I've been, in February and March, I've really noticed that lack of incoming, because I didn't put the effort in to send the pitches out. And people don't just come to you. You've got to do the work. So yeah, keep pitching, even when you get these referrals or other work coming back from things you sent months ago.
Yeah, exactly. And Kate and I will absolutely raise our hands and be like, yeah, we've done it. We've done it too. Yep. We thought, we've got so many referrals coming in for our individual copywriting businesses. We've got so much stuff coming in. You know what? I don't think I'm going to pitch for a while. And then lo and behold, project timelines change, or, just projects end, and you go, oh, I don't actually have any work coming
That'd
up.
be when I'm like, oh, I guess this is when I'm going to take my vacation and send some pitches while I'm on vacation. Back when we could do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that there is a temptation sometimes for freelancers to try to time things perfectly when they're sending their pitches. Like you were saying, Stuart, you didn't get in touch with the company because you didn't think they could afford you, or you didn't think it was the right time for them, or that kind of thing. Even if it's not the right time for a company to hire you, as you've seen, Stuart, they'll keep your info for when it is the right time. If you send a good pitch or like even in their inbox for a year and then get in touch with you in a year. But when you send a good pitch, then if it's something that they understand and they value, as it will be because you send a good pitch, even if it's not the right time, they'll hang on to you or hang on to your info for when it is the right time, or even better, when they get in touch with you and say, now's not the right time, in a little bit. And then you have the opportunity to 3 months later, hey, just want to check in. Saw this podcast that was very interesting, made me think of you. So here it is. And also want to do some work together. Not those exact lines, but yeah, it's you can't time it. You just need to send those pitches out. Yeah. And so, Stuart, you are also one of our coaches, one of our fantastic coaching team. What has been your experience with coaching? Is there anything that has been a surprise, or anything you particularly liked, or any topics you really love digging into with people?
It's something I really enjoy doing. And I remember, the biggest surprise is when an email dropped in my inbox from Kate and saying, we'd like you to think about being a coach. That really, you've clearly got the wrong person, because I've just been commenting on people's Facebook
Your comments
posts,
are so good. I mean, they obviously still are so good, but yeah, you got it very fast. I feel like, yeah.
But what I have noticed is, obviously you can see when people have just started the course, and you can see as they make progress through it, but it's so rewarding to see someone start off with, hi, I'm new to the group, I'm really excited to get going, through to, I've just set my first pitch, oh my God, or I've just landed my first client, this is amazing. And it's just harking back to my own experience of going through it all and go, oh, I remember working on that action sheet. I remember working on that example, and it's bizarre, even though you see the same bit of work worked on by multiple different people, all the different approaches people take for the same problem, and that, oh, I never thought of doing it that way. And when you see a lot of similar, and there's only so many ways you can say a certain phrase or get a certain concept over, but every now and then you just get someone who comes at it from complete left field, and you think, wow, that is so clever. And that's what I love about it, because it keeps it fresh. But I think I've noticed my own work improve immeasurably since I started giving feedback on other people's, because I start thinking, okay, what would I say to someone if I was reading this? Because being your own editor is a very difficult thing, because you get so in the headspace, and that's what I mean, and that is perfect, that is brilliant, I love the way I've done this. Then 2 days later you come back to look at it and go, that's terrible, I'm not leading with the benefit, for a start there's a typo in that bit. It's all about just taking that step back, and by looking at other people's work, it's you've removed that emotional attachment, and you can look a lot more clinically, and I then repeat my own advice back when I'm then working on my own work. So it's been an amazing opportunity to really polish up my skills by looking for, and not for things to improve on, but looking at how good someone can be with and spotting that really good copy that they've written. So I thoroughly enjoy it, as well as working closer with you guys and our other coaches. I think we've got a great bunch of global bunch of coaches. Yeah.
We cover many time zones.
We do, and many alternative spellings of words.
Yes,
Yes.
true.
I
You guys and
have
your
to-
additional U's and such, Z's and S's and
the
yeah,
E's on the end.
Zs.
the E's and the Z's. Z's, yes, thank you, Z's.
I do like the E's
Yes.
on like theater and center. It looks so much classier with an E on the end. I don't know, personally.
It's true. Yeah, we could use.
And
a
I have to
little more
thank
class.
Stuart for I realized we sprang, whatever the past tense. We did our jumping ahead last week, but in the UK they don't jump ahead for another week. This one.
Last weekend in March is when
Yeah.
we jumped.
So he's now only 4 hours apart from us instead of 5 for that. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It's like
we're just
he's
that much closer.
It caused some
Yeah.
confusion when we're trying to schedule.
yes.
Or is it schedule? I never know which one the British word
Ooh.
pronunciation is. So
Schedule.
organize
Or
our chat. It was like, is it 3? Is it 2? I don't
Yeah.
know.
which is an important thing for client. Like if you have clients in the US or, when I was in Germany and working there's a period of 2 to 3 weeks where instead of your normal, 5-6 hour, whatever difference you're used to, it shrinks. Right. And then in the fall on the other end as well. And for folks in Arizona, I worked in Arizona for a while and they do not do daylight savings except on Native American areas do. So just a tip, make sure your calendar is, if you work with clients in different places, I've mentioned this, I think before, but it bears repeating. If you use Google Calendar, you can put 2 different time zones side by side. So if you have, Stuart, if you often work with people on the East Coast, us, you can always have side by side to think, okay, if they said it's 9:30, then that's whatever, it helps a little bit.
I had good practice. So my partner used to work in Cleveland, Ohio. For a lot of the time, so he would commute across the Atlantic every month, back when we could do such a crazy thing. And
commute.
I know. So, long distance relationships, you rely on time zones a lot, and every now and then we're only 4 hours apart, and now we're back to 5. And organizing anything was just I'm confused. So app on my phone, okay, when it's 3 o'clock here, what time is it there? And sometimes we have to resort to me messaging Kate half an hour before we began. Are we talking in half an hour or in an hour and a half? And sometimes you just have to double check, because even the most intelligent people can get hideously confused when it comes to multiple time zones.
Well, and some digital calendars, if you you change to a different time zone, like if I go visit my parents in the central time zone, my iCal will change, my Outlook will not. And so then I'm like, I don't know where or when I am. So being very cognizant. You would maybe that will be another thing that will come out of more globally working together. I mean, come on, guys. This has got to be an easier way to do this.
You don't know if it has updated or it hasn't. So on the day that clock changes, you think, what time is it? It's normally my car. I'll get into the car and go, okay, I know what time it is now. But I don't do that anymore. I barely leave the house these days. So
it kind of doesn't matter.
Car?
The microwave is the new fallback. That never changes. So
it's true.
Yeah, the last weekend when I was visiting my parents, and the time changed, but my Fitbit hadn't changed when I went to go visit my parents. And so I thought, all right, great. The Fitbit's going to be right. The Fitbit will be wrong, but the phone will change. But I woke up and both of them had changed. So I was literally on my phone Googling, what time is it in my current location? Where am I and what's happening? Yes. So, okay, a little bit of a tangent there. And
important tangent though. Exactly. If you work with clients all over. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the phone idea. If you have, East Coast, West Coast, UK, put all of those in your phone app. So you always know, okay, this time here and here it is everywhere else. Yeah.
I think we all need those 5 clocks on the wall. With different times.
That's actually a good idea. Yes.
Except when the clocks change,
then we have to change all of
them. Manually go through. Yeah.
There's no easy answer. Google is the only real solution.
Thank God for Google. Yeah. Well, Stuart, this has been a super, super fun conversation. And I know we definitely kept you for longer because we started late, but we really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with us today, on top of how much we really appreciate you being part of our team. As Kate was kind of saying, we invited you to join us because, I mean, we watch. We're always looking and seeing, and right away you were, like right after you joined, right after you started to dig in, you were leaving such great, insightful comments and so helpful. And obviously since then you have only grown in your skills and and so we're thrilled to have you as a student, but also have you as part of our coaching program, because and we know too, we're getting feedback from people who have had coaching sessions with you that they loved it, and you have offered them a lot of value as well. So we really love having you as part of the team.
Thanks, Nikki. And it's great fun, and I think it's all thanks to Facebook ad targeting. It picked it. It did a good job this time.
Yes.
We should get them to sponsor us.
I know, right? Take it. I know the number of people who are like, oh, I saw your ad. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, excellent.
And so if anyone wants to look at your portfolio and check out your site, if they've listened and they want to hire you, where can they go to check out your work?
Yeah, so they can go to my site, which is stuartwritescopy.com, and that's Stuart with Stuart, not the wrong way. And you'll also see I've got a review of the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy on there as well. So if you do want to get my thoughts on the course, feel free to have a read. And yeah, it did wonders for me. So it can only help.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for saying that. Okay, so I know that I enjoyed this, so that I hope that everyone who is listening and watching did as well. We hope to give you a little bit more insight into what it's like to work as a copywriter, what it's like to work as a part-time copywriter, also when you have a full-time job, and also what it's like to try to figure out what time it is in whatever location you are in at that moment. So it's been great to chat with you guys as always. And thank you all for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyricwriter.com. We'll see you next time.